Welcome back to the Iron Grid. I am your host, Ronan Summers. I'm here with the boys, Jake, Colby. How are you?
Doing great.
Uh, uh,
Yeah, that's understandable.
nope.
Guys, last week was wild. There were blowouts, upsets, backup quarterbacks were lighting up defenses. We saw the league's leading rusher, Derrick Henry, get ruled out for the season with a foot injury. Jameis Winston was turning up in the locker room with a torn ACL. Shit went down.
That video is already iconic. I
Yeah,
love that
that will
video.
go down as one of the best Jameis videos, and there's a couple of them.
No, there's a good amount. I watched that video at least 3 times before I went to bed that night.
Had to. So, without further ado, let's get into what the hell happened in Week 8. First up, we've got the Thursday night matchup of the Green Bay Packers and the Arizona Cardinals. This was a battle of the gladiators. Uh, Kyler struggled a little bit, though. He threw 33 passes, completing 22 of them, and tossed for 274 yards. He rushed for 21. He didn't throw any touchdowns, and he threw 2 picks. That was a pretty tough outing on primetime. What did you guys think of his performance?
Definitely not up to par with what we've seen from him the past 7 other weeks of this season. I mean, he should have had a touchdown on the very last play, but AJ Green's controller just died halfway through it.
I mean,
Yeah,
post game, AJ said he did not see that ball at all. Like, obviously, you didn't see the ball. You didn't turn around till it was in the defender's hand.
it looked
But
like he
anyway,
might have been run blocking.
I think he might have. My theory is that Kyler may have called an audible and AJ just didn't hear it.
Right.
That's a total possibility. It could have just been miscommunication. That's what everybody on Thursday Night Football and on ESPN were saying the next day. It was just miscommunication.
Yeah, AJ had 5 receptions for 50 yards. Other than, the play that decided the game, he had a pretty decent game. D-Hop had 2 receptions for 66 yards. No touchdowns because Kyler didn't throw any. Chase Edmonds had 7 attempts for 30 yards and a touchdown, and James Conner had 5 attempts for 22 yards and a touchdown. So the running game didn't necessarily get a ton of attention, but it was how the Cardinals put points up on the board. Just kind of, I don't know, that's a little bit different from how they've been playing offense. What do you guys think of kind of that approach? I don't know. I thought they'd run the ball more.
I mean, Kyler threw the ball. He got 270 yards, but I guess whenever they got down in the red zone, they just finally turned around and gave it to their backs.
It is a little different. I think it was good play calling. Play calling there in Arizona, there especially in the red zone, because if you're so used to just that passing game that they have, because they have a really good receiving core over there, um, you're gonna throw those defenses off, and I think that's what they did with that run game. And most offenses are used to seeing Kyler Murray just take off, get going, and everything. But once you switch it up just that little bit, you can score. But it didn't matter in the end. They still lost.
Yeah, it wasn't really the Cardinals played bad. It was just the Packers played better. Aaron Rodgers tossed for 184 yards for 22 completions, 37 attempts, and he had 2 touchdowns. Both of those went to Randall Cobb. Cobb had 3 receptions for 15 yards. So when he did catch the ball, it mattered quite a bit. Tanyan had 3 receptions for 49 yards. And Aaron Jones had 7 receptions for 51 yards. He led the team in yards in the air, I guess receiving. A.J. Dillon had himself a good game. He kind of split carries with Aaron Jones. Dillon had 78 yards. Jones had a good game as well on the ground with 59 yards and a touchdown. So Dillon doesn't necessarily get all of the attention or a whole lot of attention in that backfield, but since the Packers were without 3 of their starting receivers, it wasn't much of a surprise to see him kind of get the power back, the lead back role, if that makes any sense. Since Jones is a pretty effective receiver out of the backfield.
I
Jones
think AJ Dillon on any other team would be the feature back. Give him if Imagine if Baltimore would have traded for A.J. Dillon.
Yeah,
That
that would be nasty,
that'd be
wouldn't it?
that'd be one hell of a backfield.
Yeah, I like AJ Dillon. I would like to see him get a lead role at some point in his career.
It's
I
just
love Aaron Jones. I'd like to see AJ Dillon maybe go somewhere else.
Aaron Jones has already cemented himself in that offense on what he brings to it. A.J. Dillon is just a complementary role to that off. Like now with Aaron Jones is like the elusive back, and then A.J. comes in. But I just feel like he would be like what Jonathan Taylor is in Indianapolis, stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah,
Putting up those numbers.
Jones plays kind of a Christian McCaffrey role right now. I mean, he can run the ball well. He can catch it out of the backfield no matter what route you throw him on. But Dylan is not that featured back like you guys said, and yet here he is leading the lead or leading the team in yards and rushes in that game. No touchdowns, but they got the run game going. Sure, neither of them got above 100 rushing yards, but they got the run game going, and that's really all they needed to get down in the red zone and Rodgers throw two touchdown passes.
Yeah, the run game, especially with your starting three receivers out, is super important. No matter who it is, you don't need that 100-yard rusher whenever you've got two really good guys in the backfield to split carries.
Alrighty, so hopping over to the Pittsburgh Steelers Cleveland game, it was a very tough defensive matchup. Steelers ended up pulling it out 15-10. Cleveland's only points came off of their very first drives of the first quarter and the third quarter, and then they just stalled out every other drive for the rest of the game. Najee went over 100 yards from scrimmage. Big Ben had a decent day. Went 22 for 34, 266 yards, a touchdown. Deontay led the team with 6 catches, 98 yards. His 50 of those yards came on the very final play with an RPO pass, so those numbers are kind of bloated. So we can go ahead and get this out of the way. I don't know who decided to call that fake field goal, and Mike Tomlin had to have okayed the call, but I don't think whoever thought of it should have a job in Pittsburgh at all.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw what Boswell posted, but I think it was something along the lines of dressed up for Halloween as a quarterback.
I like that. That's creative.
Yeah,
But
that was a bad decision.
The call there, I there are certain times where calling that is not a terrible idea, especially whenever you're just trying to throw them off and give yourself a little bit more momentum. But I don't. It doesn't. To me, after watching it a few times, it doesn't completely fall in the play calling. Boswell had a chance to get rid of the ball, and he had a chance to just scramble out of bounds rather than just keep moving over slowly and slowly and slowly. I think
Man, it's the kicker.
I know it's the
he's
kicker,
not Lamar
but
Jackson.
it's
Man.
it's game sense. At some point, you've got to realize there's a guy not 5 yards from me who's broken free. I need to do something.
That man has probably never been asked to do anything like that ever. Even in
No,
high school, he was probably still the was it what position did he play in high school? Do we know?
No, Boswell, he has thrown a touchdown on that play before to a swing tackle against the Broncos a couple years ago. So he has done this before, but he did not have the look that he had against the Broncos. That he should have just thrown it away or just tried to go headfirst into the end zone. You were that close. It was on the 2-yard line. Either way, but going off of that, Steelers changed in the second half with that happening. I saw a stat Big Ben's 266 yards. Like 190 of them came in the second half with him knowing that, hey, we can't kick a field goal. We have to go for this. And I kind of liked the way the offense looked coming out of half. It looked a lot different. I really enjoyed it.
I think it's important to see how teams can play in those pressure situations. Our kicker's out. What are we going to do now? And I think going forward, it gives the Steelers a little bit more confidence on taking risky shots or making risky plays or even going for it on fourth down. I think it's something that offense really needed just to see that they can be aggressive and that they should be a little bit more aggressive on offense.
No, most definitely. But going over to the Cleveland side, their running game was not anything to yell and scream about. They were the second leading rushing team going into this game. They were held to a total of 96 yards. That's not a good number if you in the grand scheme of things. But when you look at it, Nick Chubb only had 61 yards on 16 carries. Johnson had 4 carries for 22 yards and a touchdown. So I thought they should have had Johnson in more of a Kareem Hunt role to keep them in this game. He was averaging 5 yards a carry.
Yeah, I think Johnson will probably get that role moving forward. They probably realized that he needs to fill that role at least while Hunt is gone. But I think once Kareem's back, he's got that role on lock.
Yeah, I mean Kareem started very well this season. Even having to play behind Nick Chubb, they had themselves a nice little two-back offense. And something I've noticed the last few years, a lot of teams are going to a two-back offense, and it might have been a thing a lot beforehand, but it feels like now more than ever we're seeing a lot more teams with two running backs they can go to depending on the situation. You don't have to just sit and rely on that one specific back, because there's a lot of talent in the league right now, but whenever one of them goes down, it's next man up mentality, and I think the Browns need to give Johnson those looks as if he is the next man up and he's taking over that role.
I mean,
100%.
hell, in his first start, he had 100 yards. It was against the Broncos without Von Miller, who's now a LA Ram. We'll talk about that later. So.
Yes, sir, we will.
uh, Baker didn't have a bad day. He went 20 for 31 for 225 yards. No touchdowns, no picks. He held the ball a lot on third downs, got sacked 4 times. Just not wasn't so much as it was on his fault. It's just after those first couple of drives, it just seemed that everything would just fizzle out. Jarvis Landry had 5 catches for 65 yards, but he had at least from what I saw, 3 major drops that caused the game that swung it in our favor. And even coming down to the final play where he fumbled the ball and the former Brown Joe Schobert picks it up and makes a play. Or Joe Schobert forces the fumble and TJ Watt picks it up. I'm sorry.
Man,
Uh,
that must hurt.
then
Former guy.
And then after that drive, the Browns got the ball back with 4 minutes left, so they had a chance to have the final say in it. And a false start from Rashard Higgins, and then another dropped pass from it was high, but then again it hit him in the hands. Jarvis should have caught it, but those are what ultimately swung it in Pittsburgh's favor.
Let's talk about that Patriots-Chargers game. The Patriots walked into SoFi and beat the Chargers 27-24. Let's talk about the Chargers first. Herbert, he had himself an alright day. 223 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks. He was 18 for 35 on the day. Justin Jackson had 79 yards. He had 3 attempts. I don't know how long the scamper was for, but I'm going to assume that he went on for a nice little rush.
So on those 3 carries set and those 79 yards, he had a long of 75.
Okay, so yeah. Austin Eckler had 11 carries for 64 yards and a touchdown, and Eckler also had 60 receiving yards. Keenan Allen had 6 receptions for 77 yards and a touchdown. And Josh Palmer caught his only pass of the day for 25 yards for the other Herbert passing touchdown. The Patriots, they looked pretty good, Colby. That was a pretty good call on the spread last week.
I knew it. Belichick is. I knew coming down to the nuances, Belichick was going to pull it out, and winning by 3. I guess, hey, that counts.
Yeah, it does for sure.
It definitely.
After you made that point, you almost convinced me, but yeah, I gotta stay where I'm at. I guess. Mac Jones, he had a pretty similar day to Herbert, actually, at least in terms of passes and attempts. He passed for 18 for 35, just like Herbert. But Jones didn't have any touchdowns or interceptions. And he had 218 passing yards on the day. So it wasn't a bad day. Mistake-free football. You got the win and didn't throw any picks. You can't really ask for much more. Damian Harris rushed for 80 yards and a touchdown. And the rest of the points for the Patriots either came from their defense. Adrian Phillips had 2 interceptions. One was returned for a pick six, which tremendously helped the Patriots. And then the rest were field goals. Nick Folk, I believe Nick Folk, was that right?
Yep, Nick Folk.
Yep.
Yeah. He had himself a day. I wonder how many fantasy points he got.
Don't use
Had to
kickers.
have been a
One,
Yeah, I know.
yeah, 1 extra point and 4 field goals. So that'd be 13 points.
I mean, shoot, that's better than most of my flex players.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's not counting any other like bonus points that some leagues use. If you're just going based
Right.
off of pure points, it is about 13.
He would have done better than Devontae Smith.
That's true.
Or Devonta, my bad.
The Patriots just keep finding a way to win, though, don't they? They're not going away, are they? I didn't think that they were going to be that effective. They kind of got like a bunch of, I don't want to say like B-list players in the offseason, but they didn't necessarily get any stars. But I mean, it's the Patriots and you want to build a foundation, so I understand that. But I didn't think that they were going to be in dogfights like this, at least against teams like the Chargers, because the Chargers have proven themselves to be a kind of a contender this year, despite a couple tough losses to teams that they should have beat.
I mean, Jake brought it up last week how the Patriots have been within like 3 points of every single game of all the games that they've been in. So
Yeah, I mean, even the big games like the Buccaneers game, they only lost by a few points. The Cowboys game, they lost by a touchdown. So it's to me, it's just Bill Belichick that he is by far one of the best, if not the best coach in the league right now. He's like the Greg Popovich of football. They won't get any big stars in free agency, but they'll find a way to win as long as the coaching is right.
I like that comparison. Build a pop. I like that.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, I think it's also fair because Popovich is a defensive coach, Belichick is a defensive-minded coach.
Yeah,
Anyways,
100%.
Nick Folk is 36 years old, by the way. Just thought I'd throw that out there. He has been in the league for a minute.
Hey, and he's still putting up 3 points after 3 points after 3 points.
Then another 1 point. Don't forget about the 1 point.
My fault.
It's important. We'll take it off to the next game now. Tampa Bay and New Orleans. This was America's game of the week. I think it lived up to the hype. I really think it did. We'll start on Tampa Bay's side of the ball. Tom Brady doing Tom Brady things for the most part. 28 for 40 passing, 375 yards and 4 touchdowns, but 2 picks and 3 sacks. That's not something you expect to see out of Tom Brady. Giovanni Bernard, 30 yards on 2 rushing attempts, no touchdowns. Leonard Fournette, 8 rushing attempts, 26 yards, no touchdowns. They could not get the run game going, which I found a little bit surprising. Receiving, though, Chris Godwin had a day. 8 receptions, 140 yards, and a touchdown. Tyler Johnson, 5 receptions, 65 yards. Cyril Grayson, I believe that's how you say it. Is it Cyril
Yeah.
Grayson? Yeah. 1 catch for 50 yards and a touchdown. And I remember he had I believe it was the last touchdown for the Buccaneers. That was his first snap in an NFL game. Or
Wow.
his first start in an NFL game, I should say.
Still.
Yeah, it was, and he was a track runner in college. Did not play a snap of college football.
Wow, really?
Yep, and I remember watching it with some of my buddies, and we said, "Imagine the pressure on him." He was so wide open; it was complete botched coverage by the Saints. There was nobody near him for 15 yards at least by the time the ball got to him, and the pressure of him being that open and catching it in his first NFL game was insane. And he caught it and ran 50 yards for the touchdown.
Nah, he's getting paid for it.
He is. He is.
Easy for him. Come on now. No
Mike
pressure.
Mike Evans, though, kind of an off day. 2 receptions, 48 yards, still a touchdown, though. And then Bernard caught a 7-yard pass for a touchdown as well. Defensively, 1 sack from Ndamukong Suh, no interceptions, no forced fumbles. It was kind of an off day for that Tampa Bay defense, especially that front seven.
Yeah, you'd expect that front seven to be a little bit more effective.
Especially after Jameis went down.
Just after 100 yards to the Bears, the Saints come right back and get 150 yards rushing on them totally. So I think we're figuring out a way to stop the Buccaneers at least.
Yeah.
Keep Brady off the field.
Yep. As long as you can get that run game going, you can beat Tampa Bay is what it seems like right now, which is odd to say looking at how good that front seven is.
What was the time of possession for that game?
Let me look that up actually. I was wondering the same thing.
Saints had 33 minutes, Bucks had it for 26.
Huh.
So it wasn't that big of a difference, but it made all the difference.
100%.
We'll look at the Saints now. As I mentioned, Winston went down. Trevor Siemian, first snaps since 2019 with the Jets. Threw his first touchdown pass since 2017. He was 16 for 29 coming in for Jameis Winston, had 159 yards and a touchdown pass, only took 1 sack and no interceptions. Kamara, 19 rushes, 61 yards. Winston rushed for 40 while he was still in. Mark Ingram, guess who's back? 6 rushes, 27 yards. Kamara also had a touchdown, I forgot to mention. And then Deontay Harris, 1 rush for 22 yards. And Simeon had 2 rushes for 2 yards. His longest was 3, so took a sack, as I mentioned. As far as receiving goes, Kevin White led with 38 yards on 1 reception. Deontay Harris, their rushing yard or their receiving yards were very well spread out. Deontay Harris had 35 yards, just 3 off of White. And then Traquan Smith had 33 yards, 2 off of Harris, and he had a touchdown. Garrett Griffin, the tight end, 30 yards on 3 receptions. Marquez Galloway, 3 receptions, 30 yards. Ingram, 2 receptions, 25 yards. It was just very well spread out. And then Alex Arma, the fullback, 1 reception, 1 yard, 1 touchdown. Brian Johnson was 3 for 3 on field goals and 3 for 4 on extra points. I want to see those fantasy points.
Yeah, seriously.
And then we can't talk about this game without talking about that defense. They had 3 sacks, 1 from Cam Jordan, 1 from somebody help me pronounce the name. It's Tano Pass. All right.
I
cannot pronounce his name.
I don't know. We shouldn't even.
Hey, you know what? Shout out to the man. He sacked Tom Brady.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. He sacked Tom Brady. You've got that on your resume. And then Quan Alexander had another sack. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, interception. And then P.J. Williams, his only defensive stat of the game was a pick 6.
That's all you need, baby.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
So,
seriously.
New Orleans, even with Jameis going out, and Trevor Siemian, who hadn't thrown a touchdown pass since 2017, comes in and leads them to the win. Are the Saints for real?
No, I don't know about that. I just think that Sean Payton is Brady's kryptonite. I don't know
Right.
if the Saints in general, Cam Jordan, all of them, they just seem to have his number. I I have my questions about the Saints moving forward without Jameis. I don't know if they're gonna keep Simeon. If they do, I don't know if that's gonna necessarily translate to consistent winning. They might go to Taysom Hill. Who knows how that's gonna go? I know they had the quarterback competition, but I mean, how much of a competition was it really, and how much was it? You know, okay, Taysom, yep, this is a competition, and oh, you lost. Go play every other position for us now, special teams included.
Well,
You know what I mean?
Taysom wasn't active for the game. I do remember seeing that, and I think he's
Yeah.
out for 2 more weeks.
Oh,
So it's basically just Trevor Simeon or Ian Book for the Saints. After this game, I'd imagine they at least start with Simeon next week.
yeah. I think you got to,
Yeah,
especially against the performance he had against that defense. I mean, he proved himself to at least start next week.
they are
Start him till
playing.
he
Yeah, to start him till he can't prove it. You know,
exactly.
they are playing the Falcons next week, so I feel like that's worth mentioning.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
that'll be a good test whether that was kind of like a fluke,
mhm.
what have you. Teams kind of I feel like they struggle against backup quarterbacks because they're used to game planning against the starter, and then the backup comes in and they kind of alter the offense. The offense alters the offense,
Yeah,
and the defense just can't adjust to it quick enough in game to, be able to catch back up.
right. It's especially it's not so much game planning in the NFL as it is in college. And I've seen that the past few weeks with a few college teams, especially my own. If your game planning isn't if your game planning is focused so much on one player, then somebody else comes in and you weren't prepared for that. It changes the whole game immensely. Um,
Exactly.
but it is different in the NFL than it is in college, though. In college, you almost have to game plan for that one player, and it's typically the quarterback. In the NFL, that's where the stars are. That's why the NFL is the professionals. So, but I guess Simeon just made all the difference. I guess he really did. I did see a stat after the game. Brady is, I believe it's 1-3 against the Saints since coming to Tampa Bay, and he's only lost, I want to say, 5 games against every other team that he's played since he's been in Tampa.
That's crazy.
Something,
I wonder
something
what
in
it
Sean Payton.
is.
I really want to know. It's something in Sean Payton's brain, I guess. I genuinely don't understand what it is about them because I think only one of those games that Brady played was in the playoffs, and obviously, I'd assume
Right.
I think that was the one that they won,
Yeah.
and I'd assume it was in Tampa.
No, it
But
was in.
was it in New Orleans?
Yeah, that was the divisional round.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. You're right. Well, then that debunks my point. I was gonna say it must be the dome then.
But that was also in COVID with no fans. That Superdome was packed to the gills, I'm sure,
Yeah, I'd imagine.
with a bunch of screaming fans on Halloween. I would hate to been on the opposing side as well.
There's something about
Um.
football on Halloween that is just so fun.
Yeah. 100%. I'm sure the Buccaneers got an earful from all of the New Orleans fans.
God, I'd believe it. All right, Colby, you got the next game?
Yeah. So go ahead and transitioning over to that. Jets got a statement win over the Bengals while they fall to a trap game. Jets ended up pulling it up 34-31. Neither offense had a bad game. It was just no defense was played. Joe Burrow went 21 for 34, 259 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Tyler Boyd ended up throwing a pass for 46 yards. Their ground game wasn't nothing spectacular. Joe Mixon had 14 carries for 33 yards and a touchdown. Like to see those numbers better than what they are. T. Higgins led the team with 4 catches and 97 yards. Tyler Boyd also had a receiving touchdown with on 69 yards and 5 catches. Joe Mixon had 4 catches for 58 yards and a touchdown. And Jamar Chase ended up pulling in 3 catches for 32 yards and a touchdown. So he didn't put up the crazy yards that we're used to, but he still ended up finding the end zone. Logan Wilson led their defense with 12 tackles. Jesse Bates had a pick along with Jermaine Pratt. And that's about it for the Bengals. But going over to the Jets side of the ball, Mike White had a hell of a game. He ended up going 37 for 45 for 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. The two picks is not what you like to see, but whenever you throw for 400 yards, it's kind of easy to put those on the back burner. He also ended up setting not a rookie record, but most completions by a starter in their very first game with 37. And he also joined Cam Newton by throwing 400 yards in their very first career start. Michael Carter had also one hell of a game. Had 15 carries, 77 yards, a touchdown, averaged 5 yards a carry, and also hauled in 9 catches for 95 yards. That led the team in receiving and rushing. Jamison Crowder had 8 catches, 84 yards. Ty Johnson ended up pulling in 5 catches, 71 yards, and a touchdown. Tyler Croft had the huge touchdown to give them the lead on 2 catches, 20 yards. And Braxton Berrios ended up pulling in a touchdown. Going over to the defense, C.J. Mosley had the most tackles with 10. Shaq Lawson had the interception in the fourth quarter to get the momentum into the Jets side to have them pull that 14-point lead in the fourth quarter. But yeah, just not a lot of defense being played in this game.
Not at all. Jeez. I have a question for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
If Zach Wilson started that game, is he throwing for 400 yards? Is he even throwing for 300? Should he be scared or worried? Like, is Mike White going to take the number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft's job?
I don't want to say that, but I just want to. I would hope that Zach Wilson would have been able to do this against the Bengals, but then again, we will never know.
I think
I don't.
it's
It's
another
a bad
thing.
situation in New York.
I think it's just another thing of is Zach Wilson good in only just specific systems? Is he just not doing well in the Jets system? It's like what I said with Sam Darnold most of his years in New York. He's just doesn't fit that system correctly, and now he goes to
No,
Carolina and he's playing well.
nobody fits the Jets system. The last person who somewhat fit the Jets system was Mark Sanchez.
And he fumbled
And
after
then he,
bumping into a
yeah,
lineman's
and
butt.
then he ran into the ass of a lineman. So,
Yeah, I mean,
I, I don't think that. I don't think it's the scheme's fault. I mean, shit, they bring in new people yearly. I mean, you can't bring in all these. One of them has to be good, right?
mhm.
Like, one of these coordinators had to have been good and they just underperformed. There's no way that every single person that they have hired was just a bad hire, straight up. You know what I mean? Whether it be
I-
coordinators, position coaches, yada yada. I think it's more. I mean, Zach Wilson, he's a rookie, so yeah, I guess you can't really expect him to be lighting up offenses. You can't hold him to the standard of like a Andrew Luck his rookie year or Justin Herbert last year, something like that. You kind of have to hold them to their own standard, individually. But Mike White made a case for QB1.
Brought
yeah,
some unnecessary controversy over into New York whenever we all thought it was just going to be Zach Wilson's job forever.
yeah. I I I don't know. It's such a weird thing. It might just be a one game thing, and then Mike White comes out next week and just throws mallards all over the field.
That's the beauty of the NFL.
With a team actually being able to game plan for him, that might actually happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of goes back to the backup quarterback conversation.
I think I did want to bring this up actually. I was on TikTok after the game happened, and I saw somebody had commented on a post saying Mike White would throw for 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
I did
And
see that.
it was 22 hours before the game started when he commented that. I checked the timestamp and everything. And he threw for over 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. It's a crazy world we live in. I love football. And that is one of the reasons.
I know the better that put, I don't know, almost over $1,000 on Mike White leading the week in passing. I know he's a happy man right now.
Oh yeah.
Has to be. Oh my god.
I don't know how. I don't remember the numbers, but I know he put over $1,000 on Mike White, and it hit.
I do want to say I wonder if there was an over under bet on one of the off websites where you can just bet on random stuff. I want to know if there was an over under bet on how many times they mentioned Taysom Hill being out in the New Orleans game. Because once Jameis went down, it felt like you heard Taysom Hill's name every other line.
I mean, whenever you sign him to that extension or whatever, 4 years, $150 million, you'd hope he'd be out there. I'm ready to see what he does whenever he gets back out there.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch him out there under center.
Imagine he just lights it up and carries the Saints to the playoffs. That'd be a storyline.
It would. After last week, I talked about Jameis Winston's surprising year so far, and then here comes Taysom Hill, stealing the spotlight. All right, we're gonna go into the last game here, and this is a fun one. So Sunday Night Football, Dallas Cowboys at Minnesota Vikings. What a game! What a game it was! What a game it was! We had Cooper Rush getting the start for the Cowboys, and he had himself a nice little game. 24 for 40 passing, 325 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and a pick. Took 3 sacks, but it's Cooper Rush, you know. Zeke was held to just 50 rushing yards. His longest was 8. Tony Pollard held to 26 rushing yards. Cooper Rush he had 2 rushing yards as well. Tack it on. I'm riding the Cooper Rush train right now. I'm a Cooper Rush guy.
Yeah, no, I'm a Dak Prescott guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listen. You're not gonna win much more games with Cooper Rush over Zach Prescott, but Cooper Rush had a game. If we're being honest.
Good for Cooper. Good for Cooper Rush getting this win, but I'm ready to see Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I want Dak back. Amari Cooper though, 8 receptions, 122 yards and a touchdown. CeeDee Lamb, 6 receptions, 112 yards. Cedric Wilson, 3 receptions, 84 yards and a touchdown. Zeke had 4 receptions and 23 yards. The yards were really just taken by 2 guys, and it was the 2 guys you'd expect out of Dallas. Defensively, Micah Parsons, 10 tackles and an assisted tackle, leading the team. No interceptions, 1 forced fumble from Randy Gregory, and that was the game. That was the story of the game for Dallas. Was Cooper Rush.
Do we
Uh,
have a timetable on when Dak's coming back? Is it going to be like next week or anytime soon?
um,
I don't think they're gonna rush it. From what the commentators kept saying during the broadcast, they were just gonna let. They don't have a timetable for Dak yet. I think is what it is.
yeah, he's questionable right now. According to this report from yesterday on the score. He is expected to play in week 9.
Okay. So yeah, he's expected to play this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said that if it was a playoff game, he would have played. So I assume, he'll be back next week. Because if
Yeah.
he's feeling like that, then you would hope that he wouldn't miss 2 weeks in a row. I don't know. I feel like it would be a little bit worrisome if he were to miss next week. It might be a little bit worse than they're letting it out to be.
Yeah, I mean if it's a playoff game and you're saying he would have played, then that means it wasn't truthfully as bad as it once seemed, but I also wouldn't blame them for who does Dallas play next week actually. They play the Broncos at home. I wouldn't blame them if they sat out Dak one more week just to get him some more, like just to make sure he's 100%.
Right. That was
Uh,
a big loss for Minnesota.
it really was. Kirk Cousins, 184 yards and a touchdown. Also took a sack. He was 23 for 35 passing. Dalvin only 78 rushing yards on 18 rushes. Then Kirk had 18 rushing yards. He was second on the team on 3 rushes. Adam Thielen, 6 receptions, 78 yards, and a touchdown. Tyler Conklin had 5 receptions for 57 yards. Justin Jefferson, only 2 receptions for 21 yards. That was basically it for the offense. Harrison Smith, I thought he looked really good in the game, but he was tied for most solo tackles and then had 2 assists. He had 7 tackles, 2 assisted tackles. Xavier Woods had 7 interceptions. Wow. Imagine that. He had 1 interception. Excuse me. Harrison Smith also forced a fumble that was recovered by Anthony Barr. That Minnesota defense, I kind of expected him to hold off just one more touchdown from the Cowboys, but I guess Cooper Rush was just too much for that Minnesota defense.
Hey man, Cooper Rush.
Who'da thunk it?
Uh, that was a big loss. Everson Griffin out for the season. I don't know if you guys have seen that report, but
Yeah, I
You mean
saw
it looks
that.
like,
Daniel Hunter?
or yeah, sorry,
I think Griffin got hurt too, if I'm not
did
mistaken.
he?
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
I thought it. For some reason,
I
I
can
thought it
double
was
check
Everson
that real
Griffin.
quick.
I know Daniil's out for the season. But that offense and the
Yeah,
Vikings,
I think you're right.
there were multiple plays where there was another option open for Kirk Cousins, but he just kept settling for the little underneath route that wasn't going anywhere.
I'm sorry, I'm looking to see if he is injured or not.
You're good.
I don't think he
Yeah, no,
is.
I don't think. I think it was just
Yeah,
Daniel Hunter.
I think it was just Hunter. Yeah,
Oh,
Daniel.
my fault then.
Or no, you were right.
Oh,
yeah. That's yeah. You were right. You were correct. Um, anything else to add to that game? It was a really. I really thought the or that Minnesota could probably pull out that win, but that defense I guess just struggled a lot more than I expected.
Yeah, you would have hoped for that Minnesota team to be able to shut down Cooper Rush. They were kind of on the fence. Maybe can they get into that conversation for the wild card spot? I don't see them beating out the Packers, so that division's kind of unlocked. But the wild card spot, especially with Jameis down, it's kind of a little bit open. But
I
that
think
loss,
I think
like 6,
that's
7.
yeah. I think that 7th spot is what most people are fighting for right now.
hmm
I think you can almost chalk 5 and 6 up to a few teams. It's really up to 3 teams who get that spot, and then that last team is going to be fighting with the rest of the league for 7. Um, well, if that's going to do it for our week 8 games, let's jump right into our personal favorite subject, the grill. Uh, every week we ask each other 3 questions. It can be about specific quarterbacks. It can be about specific teams. You can reach as far back as last week, what Colby did asking about Randy Moss and Jamar Chase.
It's still a valid thing. I don't care.
It is a
Blew my
valid
mind.
question. It just it got me so off guard.
Hey. Whenever they're having the exact same rookie year, that's not that far fetched.
Those two names in the same sentence.
Well, whenever they're putting up the same yards as each other, they deserve to be in the same sentence.
I'll give it to you. I'll give it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
So I'll start us off this week. Ronan, I've got a few questions for you.
Okay.
So my first question, and I kind of already asked you this earlier, but I want you to go a little bit more in depth on it. Does this
Okay.
Saints win make them a legitimate wild card contender in your mind?
You know, the Saints are an odd team to me, even whenever they did have Jameis, because 1 week they can beat the absolute dog shit out of the Packers, and then the next they just get blown out themselves. Their defense is definitely for real. I will say that. I don't think. I mean, there's a reason why Tom Brady struggles against them, but that offense, especially without Michael Thomas and now Jameis Winston, whether it be Trevor Siemian or Taysom Hill, they're really going to have to step up, and Alvin Kamara is going to probably get an even bigger role because with Jameis you can kind of all right hit your number 2 and 3 receivers. So they might not be the best, but I mean you've worked with similar.
Yeah.
And now you have the backup quarterback in. Are you really going to trust him to throw it down the field? Probably not. You're probably going to aim for checkdowns to AK or maybe Mark Ingram. I Can they make the playoffs? Can they be a contender? Yes. So I do think that they are a wild card spot contender, but whether they get that spot or not is to be determined, in my opinion. I would side with probably not at this moment.
I think that's fair. I think it's a big statement win against a division rival, though.
Mhm.
You cannot take this win and downsize it at all. It is a huge win against the defending champions. So, but I think you are right. This team is kind of all over the place right now, and once they figure themselves out, I think we'll get a little bit more of an idea of where they go. But to me, I feel like they're right in there in that at least 7 spot conversation.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll jump to the next question. Which QB right now is looking the best to you? Disregard lineman setup, disregard system. Who's looking the best? Mac Jones or Justin Fields? We talked about Mac Jones earlier. I'll give you Justin Fields stats real quick.
Okay.
Fields was 19 for 27 with 175 yards, a passing touchdown, a pick, and 4 sacks, but he did rush 10 times for 103 yards and a touchdown.
Man, whenever he turned on freaking Scrambler and just ran around, that was nuts. Whenever he scored that touchdown on the ground,
My face was full of joy when I watched that play.
I knew it had to have been.
It was just wow.
Could never see Andy Dalton making that play.
No, you could not. You
Maybe
couldn't.
in high school.
You couldn't see Nick Foles making that play, and we're talking about a man who ran the Philly special in the Super Bowl.
To
Oh,
answer your question, that's a tough one because I don't think Fields has necessarily been given his chance to shine, and I think Mac Jones has. If that makes any sense.
I think.
Jones has had the better opportunities. He has the better kind of setup, a little bit. He has a culture around him, which is huge in the NFL.
Mhm.
New England, whatever your opinion is about it, they have a culture and they abide by it. And Mac Jones seems to fit in like a glove. I would probably go Mac Jones for right now, but as far as upside goes, I think Fields can take Chicago farther.
I like that. To me, It is a very tough question, and I do like the way Mac Jones is playing. And I go back to what we talked about a few weeks ago when Mina Kimes on ESPN said Belichick was kind of part of the problem and not taking big shots with Mac Jones. Since then, Mac Jones has taken a few big shots, and Mac Jones has been able to convert on it. But you don't see that in Chicago. It's such a conservative playbook. And there was a time I was watching the game with one of my buddies who's also a Bears fan, and he called it right before the play was even started. He said, "We'll block 8 and have 2 routes on the field." How are you going to block 8 players and have 2 routes on the field, one of which is a 15-yard crossing route by Allen Robinson against Fred Warner, who's one of the better pass coverage linebackers?
Good luck.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. So I do think Mac Jones has just been put in a better situation for right now. Um,
Mhm.
which is I tried to make it when I said taking away the line situation and the play calling, I tried to make it as even as possible by taking that
Right.
away. But that one run, pure joy on my face. I saw God at that moment, and I said, "Thank you,
He
thank you
better not
so
do it
much."
against Pittsburgh. That's all I'm saying.
He probably won't. Trust me.
I
Uh,
don't know if TJ Watt is going to let that happen.
no, TJ.
Um, I don't know. I feel like this could be easily one of those games where Justin Fields' legs makes the difference in the next game. But we'll talk about that when it comes to picks.
Yeah. Uh, I'll get to my last question now for you, Ronan. Which is more likely right now, the Bengals or the Chiefs making the playoffs?
Mm,
It's tough
that's a
because
good question.
you've got to
I
take
like that.
you've got to take divisions into account. You have to take
Right.
wild card into account. You have to take their upcoming schedule into account.
The Chiefs are uh they're struggling right now, obviously.
Hmm.
But if a team were to struggle during a season, the beginning is the time to do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're only just now reaching the halfway point.
Yeah. I think that the Chiefs, I don't know, we'll talk about their upcoming game later on, but they have at least one tough game ahead, and they're gonna have to play the Chargers again. And they're gonna have to play the Raiders again. I'm gonna go with the Chiefs just because I don't think Patty is gonna go out without swinging. Now, whether that swinging turns into 50 picks on the season, maybe, but I doubt it.
Went down.
I I think that offense can turn things around, and that defense will take a step up, similar to Seattle did last year.
I think um, I think we've seen the momentum for the Bengals. It's obvious, but I don't know. After this loss to the Jets of all teams, I don't know how much more that momentum can carry him on.
Hey, the
Um,
Jets beat the Titans, so
they did, they did.
That's true.
they have
Um,
2 huge statement wins, but nothing else to show for it.
I mean, if there's anything I've learned over the past at least 3 years, it's that you can't count out the Chiefs, no matter when it is in the season. It could be week 1, and you could be up 29. You can't count them out, and it can be the AFC Championship, and you're up 32. You cannot count the Chiefs out, no matter when it is. So I feel like the Chiefs are still, if they lose one more game, then we're talking about hitting that danger button, that panic button. But for now, if they can just carry on, if they can just keep carrying on and they can find their rhythm again, that Chiefs team can still take that division, probably be 3 seed in the AFC, and they can make a run if they get the momentum at the right time. They can make that run that they need to make.
I mean, realistically, all they have to do is, get a wild card spot. I that division is kind of odd to me. The Raiders are leading it right now, aren't they?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know what's gonna happen in there. That's why I think the Chiefs might be able to take it. I'm not sold on the Raiders 100% right now. I think they're a really good team, but whether they're going to be able to keep that up is to be determined. I think the Chiefs can. They'll at least get a wild card spot, but they have a really good shot at winning that division too. Colby, I've got some questions for you.
Go ahead and fire whenever you're ready.
All right. Who has impressed you more this year? Joe Burrow or Kyler Murray?
Ooh. I mean, they're both putting up great numbers, but impressed me more.
Hold on, before you answer, let me put this into context. Comparing Kyler Murray's, season last year to this year, obviously he's taken strides. And then comparing the fact that Joe Burrow tore his ACL in his rookie year to producing how he has.
I mean, before Joe tore his ACL, he was putting up good, like solid
Right.
numbers. Not winning games, like obviously, but now it's starting to allocate to winning now. But impressed me more. I like the way that Joe Burrow has responded coming back from that brutal knee injury, not looking like a scared quarterback in the pocket, still being able to take hits and all that. Think that him showing his progressions, I feel like he's impressed me more. Not to say that Kyler Murray hasn't shown me that he's been impressive, but he's also going to be hurt. And that knee injury, I'm pretty sure he's going to be out for the next couple of weeks, isn't he?
Shoot, I haven't. Yeah, I think so.
I think I saw where he was questionable. I think, but that I think it was more on the lower side of questionable, looking at doubtful.
Yeah. But he led his team to a 7-0 record. That's you can't sweep that under the rug. But if I had to choose one of the two, I'd have to go with Joe Burrow.
I like that. All right, so next up, you're an avid Steelers fan. You have been.
Steeler Nation,
Mike,
baby.
hey, Mike Tomlin has said that he wants a veteran quarterback if Big Ben retires at the end of this season. If Aaron Rodgers doesn't come to Pittsburgh, like rumors have stated, he might be interested in maybe taking a trip to the Burgh. Which quarterback with an uncertain future would you rather have your team acquire? Jimmy Garoppolo, who is 30, or Matt Ryan, who is 36?
I knew you would ask this question. You talked about it last night.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Jimmy G or Matt Ryan?
Yeah. I threw the age in there because I
Mhm.
personally believe Matt Ryan is a little, I wouldn't even say a little. I think he's more talented than Jimmy, but age does play a factor in,
No, most
the
definitely.
future.
I mean, neither would be a bad fit in Pittsburgh per se, but I would much rather have Matt Ryan just because he's. I mean, they've both done basically the same thing. Led their team. I mean, but whenever Matt led his team to the Super Bowl, he was an MVP.
Yeah.
Jimmy G handed the ball off to Raheem Mostert in the playoffs, and it somehow led to it. Led to a Super Bowl berth. And
I feel like Matt Ryan would be a good bridge quarterback.
a good bridge quarterback, but that's not at all who I want in free agency. We all know who I want.
A little bit of breaking news. Henry Ruggs just got released by the Raiders after following his DUI car crash that turned fatal.
I mean,
Wow.
that makes sense why he gets released, but I hope he can shake it back and get on another team. After,
Yeah,
after all
I
the
don't
leaks
know.
happen, I don't know if he'll also be on another team.
I think he's gonna be facing jail time. I'm not
Yeah,
up to bat. His best friend, I believe, died from drunk driving. I
and
think
then
it was his like title or his like cover photo on Twitter.
yeah,
I don't.
that's a whole different situation.
Yeah, that
Messed up.
sucks. But I'll go ahead and ask you my third question. Um, who has the most momentum in the NFL right now, going into Week 9?
Most momentum?
Yeah,
Give me the Green Bay Packers. You come off the win with none of your receivers, eh, put up 24 points, still beat them. I gotta give it to them. And then you just put Devontae Adams, MVS coming back. Yeah, I don't think with that I mean the defense is it's opportunistic, but I still like what pieces they have around it.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that.
Uh,
I'd
but
probably have to agree with you.
other than Green Bay, it's also LA.
Yeah,
Uh,
LA is rolling right now. They've bounced back after that Cardinals loss.
yeah, with the acquisition of Von Miller, I think they'll
Ooh.
be right next. They'll be up next for having the most momentum. But Jake, I got a couple questions for you.
All right, fire them at me.
Which of these two teams could you see make the playoffs? The Saints or the Panthers?
Hmm. As much as I do like the Panthers, and I do, I do like the Panthers a lot. I love that defense. I think this win
Coming back this week, I'm pretty sure.
is that
It,
confirmed. He is coming back this week.
it is not,
I
but
It's not.
he was
He's
scheduled to make his return against the Patriots in Week 9.
all right. We'll
Yeah, I
say
think Rule said that they're hoping to have him on the field for week 9, and if not, they're going to aim for the following week. So I don't know. He didn't necessarily sound super optimistic,
mhm.
but he did say that
He's not.
they're aiming for this week.
Yeah. I just think after this win, the Saints have so much momentum. I think this will really push their momentum. Jameis, him being out, it sucks a lot. But once Taysom comes back, I think he can. I think he'll help that offense a lot.
So say Taysom Hill has not Taysom Hill. Wait, no. Who am I thinking of? Trevor Simeon. Sorry, both team names. If Trevor Simeon has kind of relatively the same day that he has against the following team, I don't know who they play next. You think he's even going to be the starter?
I think he'll
Like
be.
whenever Taysom is eligible to play again?
I think once Taysom comes back, it'll just depend on practice reps. If Trevor Simeon has another week like this week, but better. I mean, he only had, I believe it was 145 passing yards, but he did come in a little bit later in the game. Um, I think if he has a better week next week, it'll come down to practice reps between him and Taysom.
Gotcha.
And they'll just put Taysom back into that Swiss Army knife role. But now
Knowing Sean Payton. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say if even if Simeon stays in, or even if Taysom comes in at quarterback, they won't be afraid to run a few trick plays and have Taysom out there with Simeon at quarterback. I think that really opens up the offense a little bit more.
Knowing Sean Payton, though, he'll probably go with whoever has the hottest hand. Yeah, I don't think he's very afraid of kind of switching things up on a week to week basis.
Yeah,
Especially with Jameis out, I feel like
Hmm.
I'm more prone to doing it now.
I think so. Yeah.
But switching over to the next question, starting a team, who would you rather have playing your free safety position, Minka Fitzpatrick or Jesse Bates?
Ooh, man. I like both of them. Um, I like both of their styles on defense, but to me, if it were a biased pick, I would go Minka. It's a toss up otherwise to me. I think Bates has had a pretty good season, honestly. He's helped that defense a lot, but you can't down talk Minka's his productivity the last few years. So I think I'll go Minka on that one. It honestly is a tough question though. I think most people might not most people. I feel like a few people will instantly go, yeah, Minka Fitzpatrick and end the question. But I think the more you think about it, the harder of a pick it is.
Honestly, me being a Steelers fan, I still think I'm taking Minka to start a franchise 100%. But who's having a better year? Jesse Bates 100%.
Yeah.
Minka just, I mean, he's out there make like he's making the plays that like he needs to. He made the big fourth down stop to seal the game. Don't get me wrong, he's still like showing up. He's just not doing what he was whenever we traded for him. And then but what he was doing whenever we traded for him was those were outrageous numbers, getting like 5 interceptions or whatever within those couple games. But that's a really tough question.
Yeah, I mean Minka's productivity cannot be. It's nothing to scoff at. You can watch him even on run plays. He's a good run stopper or a run supporter. And then on pass plays, we've seen what he can do the last few years. So he's just a great all around free safety to have. He'd be a big help to any team, no matter who it is.
No, I agree 100%. But going on to the final question, with the Vikings losing to Cooper Rush, do you still see them even making the playoffs at this point?
I think they're in a similar boat as kind of as the Chiefs. Um, though the Chiefs are a better team overall, I think if they can just get something going on offense, Minnesota can make that seventh wild card spot and just sneak into the playoffs. That
I
defense is still, to me, one of the better defenses in the NFC, and they can help that team compete with anybody. It's just they have to get the run game going early and then not be afraid to switch it up because you've got two very talented receivers there. And Kirk Cousins is still able to throw the ball very well.
I like that comparison, comparing them to the Chiefs. But their offense seems to, I mean, they're coached by Mike Zimmer. Their defense is always going to show up either in the run game or the pass game. Like this game, they showed up in the run game only giving up 78 yards, but gave up 350 to Cooper Rush.
Right.
It's just whether or not that offense shows up and Kirk Cousins plays efficient football.
I said this during that game. I said, remember a few years ago when people were saying Harrison Smith was probably one of, if not the best safeties in the league, and then you haven't heard much of him this year. But this game, he led the team in tackles, had a forced fumble. He was out there doing it all, really. So, but it just wasn't enough. I just think that they're in a similar situation to the Chiefs where they need to get some momentum going and they need to, for them and their offense, they need to establish that run game early because if they can't do that, you cannot sit and completely rely on Kirk Cousins to try to find Thielen or Conklin or Justin Jefferson every play because teams are going to be able to cover that pretty easily if that's all you have to rely on.
Is it time? Can we
It
talk
is.
about it now?
Yes, it's time.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
We have hinted at it all episode. Maybe not all, but we've hinted at it a couple of times.
Nodded our heads towards it.
Yes.
The trade that occurred on the 1st of November of 2021, the LA Rams sent a 2022 second and third round pick to the Denver Broncos for Von Miller. Von will be accompanied by Leonard Floyd, Sebastian Joseph Day, and the best player in football, Aaron Donald, on that front. O-lines are scared. They need to be. They were scared before. They're frightened now.
The rich get richer, and only for two day two picks?
Yeah, but we have no capital now.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever you're not good in those 2 rounds, you're not gonna find a single player that's gonna give you the production of a Von Miller.
No.
No.
And to be honest with you, we draft well, but sometimes we miss. Tutu Atwell was not necessarily a great pick. So, coming off of this year's draft class, seeing the Rams needed help on defense. Yeah, maybe didn't look that way, but they have pieces on that defense where people don't know the names of the players. Very few people know who Nick Scott is, right? So, but he's a good player, by the way. You look him up. Vouching for my Rams players, but
I just thought, pass rush wasn't the point of emphasis that needed help on defense. I would have
No.
liked to see him go get like a off ball linebacker.
Miles Jack. I thought
That w-
if we were to make a play on a linebacker, I saw all the Rams accounts I follow, talking about, hey, let's get Miles Jack, Von Miller. I'm not mad.
Oh, are you
I
kidding?
hope
Oh,
not.
who would be mad about that if you're a Rams fan?
Okay, as a Rams fan, I am not upset with it, but as an NFL fan, it does kind of mess. I don't know if I like it. Just as a fan of the NFL, seeing Von Miller in different colors, it's going to be weird.
I think it was a change of scenery that was needed by both teams or both sides.
Yeah.
But going over to the next trade, we had Melvin Ingram going over to the Kansas City Chiefs in exchange for a 2022 6th-round pick. I mean, I understand it from Melvin's side that he wasn't getting the playing time that he was liking. He thinks that he's better that he was better than Alex Highsmith, who's the outside rusher, because that's what we used Melvin as. But I think that's a great pickup for the Chiefs. The pass rush for them has been spotty all year. Melvin Ingram is still a serviceable starter. The rich get richer.
Yeah.
Seems to be a trend.
To break down some of the other major trades at the deadline, we had Dan Brown to the Chiefs, Laurent Duvernay-Tardif to the Jets, Charles Omenihu to the 49ers. That was really all the big trades at the deadline. So because the deadline was a little weak this year, Adam Schefter broke down all the bigger trades of the year. So outside of the deadline, we had Mark Ingram to the Saints, Flacco to the Jets, Kenny Young to the Broncos, Zach Ertz to the Cards, and then Stephon Gilmore and C.J. Henderson both going to the Panthers. So while the deadline may have been a little bit weaker than we expected, overall there have been some pretty big trades this year.
I feel like that kind of happens yearly, though. We trade deadline, and then we get 5 minutes past the deadline. We're like, well, nothing happened.
I think the NFL trade deadline, you'll have one every 5 years that's like, well, this deadline was amazing. There was just trades here and there and everywhere. It's not like the NBA or the NHL or these other leagues where rosters are smaller, where you're like, is this trade going to happen here, there? I remember the MLB deadline this year. We were all sitting at our phones waiting to see who the next guy was traded, even 30 minutes after the deadline had ended.
Yeah, that shit was nuts. There were guys moving around left and right.
Yeah.
The entire Cubs organization was stripped down in like a week.
Yeah, let's not talk
Sorry,
about
buddy.
that. Anyways,
Sorry, buddy.
Football podcast.
Yeah, football. This is a football show.
Football show.
But the Chicago Bears are no better. It's okay though.
It's fine. Being a Chicago fan is rough right now, unless you're a Bulls fan. Anyways, football podcast. So Zach Ertz to the Cardinals, by the way, might be one of my favorite trades because he was looking to be a tight end one somewhere. Goes to the Cardinals. He's instantly tight end one if you ask me. And the offense is just that much better, and he's already made an impact for him.
Yeah, Ertz to Arizona, that's going to be a sneaky move that I feel like can help him a lot moving forward because he's one of those guys who has, experience winning, experience in the playoffs. He's been on an underdog team, and whether the Cardinals have had, they did have the best record in football, they still have quite a bit of momentum. But they're still kind of the underdogs. No one really expected them to do a whole lot this year. And now they are, but there's still questions around, oh, well, they just lost to the Packers without their starting 3 receivers. I like Ertz to the Cardinals. I feel like he can bring a lot of wisdom to that locker room. I hate it as a Rams fan, but I think that was a really good move.
Well, you'll be fine. Your defense is better than that.
Who's gonna cover him, Vaughn?
After getting your pick for him, I hope so.
I mean, I mean, you can't be afraid to mix things up a little bit, you know?
Who would you rather have in coverage, Von Miller or Leonard Floyd?
Leonard Floyd, so that way Vaughn can be rushed.
Good
I
answer.
do. Fair.
No, but
Uh,
okay, to go back onto the Vaughn situation, I do kind of have a question about that move.
mhm.
Um, his contract is up at the end of the year, and I question whether or not we're going to be able to keep him around for the future. I mean, like financially, the Rams don't seem to be able to keep him. Add another contract, to the long list of contracts. Because there's no way he takes, like a veteran's minimum or something, which is pretty much what he'd have to take, at least right now with how their money's set up. Now, Les Snead loves to kick the can down the road, move money around, change guaranteed money. I We have seen the Rams prove that the salary cap is a myth. I don't know if they'll restructure it and maybe try to keep him moving forward. But if it is for just this year and they gave up a second and third round pick, they've got to win it all, right? Like, I hate saying that as a Rams fan. This is a win now year because you never want to look at a season that way. Because if you look at it that way, that probably means that moving forward, you might be screwed a little bit. So I hope we're at least able to keep him for another, at least through next year, but is a second and a third for half of a season of Von Miller really worth it, especially if you don't make the Super Bowl? Not really, and at least in my opinion. What do you guys think?
I mean, it looks like the Rams have put all their chips into the middle of the table, and they're wanting to go for it. I mean, even if you don't keep them for next year, I still think you guys are still a great team. It's just
Well, yeah, we were the same, or we'd just be relatively the same team we were 2 days ago,
yeah, exactly.
but with less draft capital and kind of a little less of a bright future because there's not a lot of young guys on that team.
I mean, it all depends on how Vaughn comes out and plays. If he comes out and gets 6.5 sacks, I feel like he gets re-signed. But if he comes out and doesn't do anything, it's you won't sign him again.
Yeah, that there's a lot of boomer bust potential in that
Hmm
trade.
Yeah.
Let's talk
Let's.
about a couple. Oh,
I was gonna say the same thing. After
how
you,
about
sir.
that?
You go ahead.
Let's talk about a couple of trades that didn't happen. Uh, who are some trades or who are some guys that you kind of wish would have gotten moved? Jake, if you want to start first.
Um, as much as I love him, Allen Robinson should have been moved. Um, I had this talk last week and just yesterday actually with one of my friends. We were talking about it, and the Bears are in such a weird situation because they have a win now mentality in the middle of a rebuild. So the question becomes, what moves do you need to make if you're the Bears to not only give you the best chance to win, but to help develop your quarterback? Well, names were on the board for trades such as Odell Beckham Jr. maybe. I think an Odell for Allen Robinson deal straight up would have worked, and it would have benefited both teams, in my opinion. At that point, yes, Allen Robinson makes the big plays, but now you've got a guy who's known for making the big plays if you make that trade. Not to mention, you don't have to worry about putting a franchise tag on Allen Robinson again next year and him probably not signing it because he wants out of Chicago that bad. Because it's obvious to me that Ryan Pace does not want to pay him at this point. They have, as far as I'm aware, they haven't even had contract discussions, and we're going into week 9. They didn't discuss a contract until they put the franchise tag on him last year, if that tells you anything. So, to me, the smart move for Ryan Pace and the Bears to make was to trade Allen Robinson for at least a second or trade him for OBJ straight up. I think it was just the smart move. Get that money off the table that you're not willing to pay anyways. Get a guy who's known for making big plays and maybe you're less scared of taking a big shot in the game. The problem is Justin Fields' mental clock for passing the ball is 1 Mississippi 2, and by 2, that ball has to be out of his hands because that's how bad the offensive line is. That's my take on it. I know, Ronan, you disagreed with that early on before the show, but I feel like it's a compelling argument.
You know, you definitely swayed me a little bit, and I would have really liked a Allen Robinson for OBJ trade. You, I that would have been very, very interesting. And OBJ is actually my pick for the guy that I wish he would have been that would have been traded. I was surprised that OBJ didn't get moved. I assumed his lack of production and his dad tweeting about uh, I think it was a picture or a video of Baker not throwing OBJ the ball.
A 10-minute compilation of Baker
Wow.
Mayfield missing Odell Beckham.
Okay.
And the first play was Odell Beckham was wide open on a street route, and it was completely to his back shoulder, 5 yards away from him.
Odell is an extremely talented player, but that Cleveland offense just doesn't need him, do they? I mean,
I
it
mean,
doesn't seem like.
it seems like every time he's not on the field, the Browns excel. He tore
Yeah.
he tore his ACL against the Bengals last year, and then they went on a run to beat Pittsburgh in the playoffs. I just don't know why they are wanting to hold on to him so bad. He has not shown anything this year on why you should keep him, and then with his dad posting those tweets and all that stuff, now it's a drama club up in Cleveland.
I
Yeah, I
think
feel like. Oh, go ahead.
I think with that offense, it's the idea of having another threat on the field. Though they may excel without him out there, it's still the idea of having two top 10, 15 wide receivers on the field at the same time. And I mentioned it earlier. The Bears walk out there and run a 2 route play with only 4 people rushing at them. You can't do that unless you've got 2 top guys in the league. And I think I compared it to that situation in Cleveland. The Bears don't have OBJ and Juice. They've got A-Rob and Darnell Mooney. So I think that's really what Cleveland is thinking about with keeping OBJ, is just having an extra weapon on the field. Even if
Right.
it does hurt them in the long run, they trust their defense enough, and I don't blame them for trusting that defense.
I thought he needed to go somewhere where he could be the focal point, or at least a focal point. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about that Cleveland offense, Chubb is 1, Hunt when healthy is 2, and then Jarvis is 3. I mean, I can't really blame him if he wanted out. I'd like to
It's
see him get the ball more.
it's hard
He's a
to
he's
look
a
at a
hell of a
team.
player.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to look at a team and see OBJ on the roster and be like, he's not one of the top 3 weapons.
Exactly.
I wish the Packers would have made a move for OBJ.
That would have been something, wouldn't have been? You
Have
think Aaron would be enticed to stay a little bit more if they would have traded for OBJ?
if OBJ was on the roster, yeah, I think he might stay one more year.
I think he'd write out
Financially, they
all
probably
3
couldn't
years of the
take it,
contract
though.
rather than 2.
But without OBJ on the roster, no, he's not staying there.
No.
I disagree.
Oh,
Mm.
yeah, we talked about this last
You know
night.
what? Let's go ahead and talk about it. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to leave Green Bay. And here's why, okay? Someone in that office has to be thinking, is Jordan Love really going to be better than Aaron Rodgers at the end of his career? Like in Aaron Rodgers' last few years? Like, what are the chances that you hit 3 quarterbacks in a row? Right? Is Jordan Love? I think he's a really good talent, but I think this is going to end up. Now, I don't want to say it will end up. I think it could end up like a New England situation with Garoppolo. Yeah, the front office, everybody's kind of split. Then they trade away the backup to kind of double down on the starter or QB1. I think that Jordan Love could potentially. I don't know about getting shipped off, but I think Aaron could stick around at least to finish out his contract through
You know,
2022.
you didn't bring that up last night. I was thinking like the Packers were going to hold on to Jordan Love, but I mean, if Aaron could sway the front staff to trading Jordan Love, then yeah, I would stay there for the rest. But I just with them drafting Jordan Love and then him needing a receiver help, them drafting Eric Stokes, it's completely just not want to have interest in that team past this year.
I remember watching the first game of the year for the Packers, and then watching the post game after they lost, and everybody was so disappointed at their performance. Aaron Rodgers did not look like he wanted to be there. Now look at him. Dude is out there having fun still with this team. They haven't lost since. I don't if they can make a move in the offseason to get him a better wide receiver too, because let's be honest, Lazard and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, putting him next to the best receiver in football, arguably, you're basically just looking at Devontae Adams 90% of the time. If they can
Yeah,
get him a second target and a good wide receiver too,
Like
Rodgers is enticed to stay and potentially even re-sign.
I don't think that receiving core is necessarily bad, but I do
It's
think it could get better.
No,
It,
it's not bad, but you can look up a compilation on YouTube of Valdez Scantling just dropping the ball. That he sometimes he comes up big, but a lot of other times he drops 50% of his targets. And it's not overthrows, it's drops.
but I
if
mean, okay, you compare the Packers receiving core to the Steelers or to the Broncos. How much better are theirs than the Packers?
The
I feel like the
Broncos,
Packers might be better.
I'd say they're better, but the Broncos receiving core to me is a little bit younger and less
Oh
experienced.
yeah,
Eh,
collectively, the Broncos have a better receiving core than the Packers. But if you go by player, it's the Packers.
Yeah.
Or if that makes sense.
No,
yeah.
that's the argument I would make, honestly.
I mean, the Broncos have Sutton, Judy, Hamler, Kendall Hinton, all them people. And then when you go to the Packers, it's Devontae Adams, and then it's a steep decline. I feel like if they could get like a receiver like Robert Woods, like to hold down the wide receiver two position, it's just that would entice him to stay longer.
Yeah, I think if they can go out, get a good wide receiver too, get a reason for Aaron Rodgers to stay, like everybody's been saying all along, he'll finish out this contract at the very least. I'd I wouldn't even be mad if they went out and got, say, a Cole Beasley. He's a solid wide receiver two for anybody. He's a wide receiver one in some systems. A Cole
It's
Beasley
fair.
would complement Devontae Adams very well, in my opinion. But I guess we'll see. Rodgers is guaranteed to stay, I think, at least one more year there out of his 3 years. I guess we'll
Yeah.
see.
Colby, is there a guy you wish
Yeah,
could have been traded?
getting back to the trade talk. Yeah, I really thought we were going to see a move for Deshaun Watson, but looking back at it now with all 22 of the legal cases, those are going to need to get figured out before he gets traded. But I saw a report where the Dolphins and the Texans and the Washington football team were all linked in a 3-team trade to get Tua out, to get Deshaun put in Miami, just to get all that, and then just for it to come this Tuesday and nothing happens.
I believe Miami announced just an hour before the deadline hit that they were not making a trade, and that
Mhm.
surprised the heck out of me.
I mean,
I wasn't that surprised with all those legal cases. I wouldn't give up my future if you don't even know
Right.
what's going on in those. You'd have to be very, very, very comfortable that he's either in it. Well, hopefully he's innocent. If he isn't, then he should. I don't think he should be playing for an NFL team. But
yeah, no, he needs to get the legal issues figured out, but The Roger Goodell said that if a team were to trade for Watson, Watson could have played. Watson's not like
He's not suspended or anything, as far as I'm
yeah,
aware.
Right.
if he wanted to suit up and play for the Texans, he could. He's just choosing not to, which is the smart idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a weird situation. It's something that it feels like we haven't really seen anything like it. And now here we are in the midst of it, and we're like, well, what's going to happen?
All because the GM wouldn't let Deshaun Watson put in his 2 cents. Not even, just go listen to Deshaun Watson on who he wants to coach or who he wants his head coach to be or the GM.
Right?
That's if they would have just went up to him and asked that, we wouldn't be having a problem with it.
Nope.
So, have you guys seen the reports that St. Louis might get an NFL team?
Just today.
Yeah, I just saw it this morning, actually.
So, an Instagram account with the name Gateway Grinders, they cover St. Louis news and sports and culture. Uh, this is a quote from their post. From what I understand, the NFL is actually prepping a package to offer an expansion team to the city of St. Louis because they can't afford what's ultimately going to be somewhere between $8 to $12 billion in judgment against the league. They followed up in the caption saying, offering an expansion team to the city of St. Louis is among a wide range of potential settlements, and the NFL is preparing in case the St. Louis lawsuit trial does. Spoiler alert, so far the NFL has lost every step of the way. The more and more wins the city gets in this trial, the more likely we could see the possibility of an expansion team becoming a reality. So that's kind of big news.
I mean, we can blame the Rams for this after after what they did, just packing their bags and leaving.
You can blame Kroenke. You can blame
I
Kroenke.
mean, Kroenke made the best decision for that team. Do not get me wrong. The Rams would not be what they are now if they were still in St. Louis.
Jeff Fisher would probably still be their coach.
Ugh, I don't want to think about that.
Going
Yeah.
500 somehow. They'd go 500 this year with a tie.
But I miss having
With
a team in St.
tie.
Louis. But I really wish they would get another expansion team going up in there.
So my thought about this was I don't know how they do an expansion team. They're at 32 teams right now. It's tied for the most in any of the major leagues in the United States or in North America. That would put them at 33 teams. So you're looking at weird divisions, weird conferences, um, just a whole bunch of weirdness. I think you're more likely to see a relocation more so than an expansion team. The problem with that is when I originally saw that once the Rams left and rumors started circulating, I want to say around 2 years ago about who could take their place in St. Louis. The original teams I saw were teams like Buffalo, Tennessee, Houston, Miami. Teams,
I think the Chargers were whenever they were still in San Diego.
yeah, the
I think
Chargers
they
were
were
one of
also
those.
mentioned.
Yes. So a lot of the somewhat newer AFC teams. But now look at all those teams I mentioned. Most of them have got something going, and the others seem pretty content with staying. So it's a very weird situation. They already have a stadium to play in. It was used during the XFL season in 2020 before COVID. So it can still be used perfectly fine once they just fix a few things in there. Um, I think it's also a great time, no matter which happens. It's a great time to shuffle up the divisions a little bit. And that's not something anybody wants to hear because of how many rivalries are in each division. But it's weird to look and see the NFC East and then the Cowboys are part of that whenever you've got other teams farther east that are in like the NFC North, or not the North, the NFC South that could probably just be in the East, you know? It,
Yeah,
it's a
but
good
I'd like to
time.
see you go up to Jerry Jones and try to tell him that the Giants and Eagles and Washington football team can't be his rivals anymore. You know how much money he's made off of those rivalries?
Okay,
I
so
have a hard time seeing Jerry Jones going, okay. And if Jerry Jones isn't cool with it, I guarantee you a lot of other owners are going to be against it as well because I feel like he's kind of like the I don't want to say like ringleader, but he's kind of like the leader of the owners. I feel like.
yeah, I mean, in a sense, yeah, but there's already been a solution added to the league this year, and that's an extra regular season game. If the league would want to keep these rivalries intact after this whole shuffling of all of this, you could have them sign contracts to play these other teams. Well, I guess it wouldn't be contracts in the NFL, but you could have them play these other teams on, say, Thanksgiving. Imagine the ratings boost on Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving already gets a ton of ratings on football. You could have them play those rivalries on Thanksgiving. There's 3 primetime games a week. There's plenty of space to see those rivalries still lived out, but it does also take away from some of the other games you might be playing. So I think it's a great idea to look at, but there is also a lot that would go into it because you're looking at potentially losing a lot of money out of it.
Yeah, that would be interesting though if St. Louis were to gain a team and how that would all shape out because it looks like the NFL might have to fold because I don't think the city is going to be going away about this anytime soon.
No, I think well that was my first question whenever I read that St. Louis was getting a team was that are they going to be in the West again? Are they going to be in the North? Like where are they going to put St. Louis cuz it's literally smack dab middle of the United States.
Right. So you guys want to go ahead and give some picks with the spread?
Oh boy.
I'm
Let
ready
me
for it.
let me
Hit
some my
good last
picks.
week.
Yeah, you picked good last week. You both picked good last week. I did not. So looking at the scores last week. By the way, from now on we're gonna keep track of the picks from every week.
Perfect.
Ronan and Colby were both 4-2. Where they differed, however, Ronan picked Green Bay, Colby picked Arizona, and then Colby picked New England, whereas Ronan picked the Chargers, and then both of you picked Kansas City, but I picked the Giants, and they covered the +10. They covered
All
it.
Please.
right, you take your 2 wins.
Yeah.
I was 2-4,
Get
but
out.
I'll take that Giants win. It feels like 7. Okay. And Ronan, I do want to point out, I marked it down. I told you I'd mark it down and come back to you.
No.
Mahomes did not throw for 350 yards and
Did
3
he get the
touchdowns.
win?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but
Hey, you know what? I can't even be mad. I played against him in fantasy this week. I'm glad he didn't. I said that, and then I looked at my fantasy matchup moving forward or for the that week, and I was scared shitless.
I
So
don't.
if I'm gonna be wrong, I was glad I was wrong about that.
I
I'm sure I
I
was
can't
wrong about
even.
other things, but
Probably.
let's get into the picks.
Oh yeah.
So first off, we've got Minnesota +5.5 at Baltimore -5.5. What are you guys thinking?
Baltimore off of a bye week. Lamar having a week to rest. Yeah, give me Baltimore.
That 5.5 is what's really bothering me because I said it earlier talking about Minnesota. If that if they can establish that run game early and then they start spreading out the offense a little bit as the game goes on, that offense is still very, very good. And that defense is nothing to scoff at, and it's never gonna be anything to scoff um, at least for the next few years. That 5.5 is very, very tough for me. I think I'm going to take Minnesota just because of the spread.
I'm going Baltimore -5.5. I think, yeah, coming off that bye week, they're gonna be ready.
See,
We've got. Oh, go ahead.
My bad. I don't
No, you're
think we don't know what we're gonna get out of that Vikings offense. It's just I think the Baltimore's defense is able to stop Minnesota's offense, but I don't think Minnesota's defense will be able to contain Lamar Jackson at all.
I think
What about
that's
the we've got oh, you good?
no. Go ahead. You're
We've
good.
got the New England -4 at Carolina Panthers +4. What do you think?
I think Carolina's defense can stop Mac Jones. Uh, Gilmore's playing. From what I understand, that defense it's not completely healthy. It's not supposed to be completely healthy until mid-December, probably playoff time if they make the playoffs. Um, I think Carolina +4 is not a bad bet to take.
Well, this goes off of, for me at least, is CMC playing, but we don't know about it. We record this on a Tuesday. It will come Thursday or Friday. We'll figure out if CMC's playing. But at this point, I need New England. I think that coaching the coaching is going to tell Matt Rule that defenses will suffocate Sam Darnold just like they used to and kill the Panthers.
Yeah, but Sam Darnold's got weapons now.
Man, we've been saying that all season.
That one
I don't.
loss that they had whenever they went into overtime, I don't put that all on Sam Darnold. The receivers just dropped every pass that was thrown to him.
Okay, that game, yeah, I give you that. But
No,
he's
I
also
don't think it's all.
No, I mean he's had his share of bad games. Every quarterback's gonna have that.
but Sam Darnold's also going to be playing the Super Bowl winning coach Bill Belichick who he used to see twice a year. I'm pretty sure he can just go and pull up his very extensive playbook on Sam Darnold and know what to call to beat him.
Yeah, pull out his playbook from his socks. Love that. I
See,
don't know if you guys saw that video of Belichick pulling the playbook out of his
it's
socks.
good.
I love that.
Everything in his socks. The challenge flag, his playbooks. Hey, good for him.
You got to keep them somewhere. Got to keep
Multi-purpose.
got to keep
Sort
those
of-
pockets empty to keep your hands warm.
You know, God, you both made pretty good cases. Originally, I wanted to take Carolina +4, but I think I'm gonna go New England -4. I think,
Last week you stick with your gut. This week you switch up.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I was on the fence to begin with, but I think Bill will be able to dial something up, scare the shit out of Sam Darnold, and make him see some ghosts again.
Just like old
It's
time.
it's not in
Just like
MetLife.
old times.
It's not in MetLife. There are no ghosts. All right,
Uh,
maybe there are. Maybe there are. My fault.
there might be.
You never
What
know.
was the oh shit. What, the Blind Side? What was the story that the lady told him? There were like bodies under the field or something.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
why how she made Michael Orr commit to Ole Miss and not a certain place.
Yeah.
Hey, the Panther Stadium isn't that old.
You don't know what's going on under there. But anyway,
Halloween was last week, okay? Halloween was last week.
next up we've got Cleveland +2.5 at Cincinnati -2.5. What are you feeling?
My gut wants me to go Cleveland, but after what I saw, that how ineptitude that offense was, or ineptic, I guess it would be the way to say it. I gotta go Bengals.
This is man.
Big Ben did enough to beat the Cleveland defense. I think Joe Burrow and that offense will do numbers against them.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm taking Cincy.
Yeah, I think it's a clean sweep here. I think we go Cincy.
There we
Look at
go.
that.
I can't wait for Cleveland to upset and just
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all just gonna be
I'll
throwing
take
our
a
hands
lot
in
of this one.
there. We're throwing papers in the air, just being pissed.
I'll be scratching my head. Just, how did that happen?
Let's see. Next up, we've got the Chargers -1.5 at Philly +1.5. This one's kind of, I don't know.
It's
I
right
think
there on
one
the
and a half is
fence.
a little bit generous. I feel like you could probably give, well, generous for the Chargers. I feel like you could give Philly a little bit more. I'm personally
I mean,
taking Chargers -1.5. I think they're gonna bounce back.
haven't the Chargers dropped their past like 2 games
Yeah, I mean
against?
they got to pick back up somehow or at some point, right?
Mhm.
You would think, but yeah, no. Even with Philly scoring 44 against the Detroit Lions, I still think that the Chargers end up winning this.
You're taking LA.
Jake, don't do it. Jake, don't
I'm
do it. I
taking
know you're thinking it.
LA. It's a
Don't.
sweep. It's a sweep. It's another clean sweep. We're taking LA. Herbert didn't even play all that
Okay.
bad against New England. So I think it's good to go for them.
Okay, next up we've got Green Bay +1 at Kansas City -1. Kansas City -1 with that record, huh? Against Green Bay.
Mm,
I don't know how I feel about that.
Mm,
Just to clarify, I'm getting these off of FanDuel Sportsbook. It's a Tuesday, so these are subject to change, but these are that's the spread right now.
man.
I just for solely, I don't know what the Chiefs are. They seem to win a game, lose a game, and they just beat the Giants by 3 points. I think Green Bay comes in and handles their business.
My initial question is, does Green Bay have their 3 receivers this game? Or at
Devontae
least
Adams is back at least.
Devontae Adams is back at least. I'm taking Green Bay.
Yeah, I'm gonna be the guy.
Oh, you saw
Listen,
what happened last week.
no, I
You
know,
saw what
I
happened
know.
last
I
week.
do like the Packers. You're right, and I do think that they're the better team. Don't get me wrong. I don't know, Kansas City and Arrowhead. It's not prime time, I don't believe either, is
I
it?
don't, I don't think
I don't
so.
think
So
so.
I mean, no pressure. Really. I mean, obviously pressure, but a little teensy bit less
Oh,
pressure.
there's a lot of pressure going into this. The Chiefs are 4-4. They take another
Yeah.
loss.
No, they take another loss. What?
It doesn't.
They're out for the season.
Not out
They're
for
in
the
the
season.
AFC.
Yeah, anything can happen in the AFC. I hate it. But I don't think they just don't seem like they can get momentum going in their way. It seems like they win a game then lose a game just like every time.
All right, Ronan.
Ah,
All right. All right. All right, Ronan.
Hey,
All right.
you're staying on that limb. We'll go ahead and go on to the next game.
I'm gonna stick.
hey,
I'm gonna stick on the tree
I
trunk for
think
now.
Green Bay is the better team. Do not get me wrong. Aaron Rodgers, at least for this season, is the better quarterback. Uh, ev- shoot, Adams back will be a very nice feat, but
But
I don't know if Eric Stokes or even Jair Alexander is going to be able to keep up with Tyreek.
I don't care. I don't care about the offense, dude. That defense of Kansas City has not been able to hold on to anything really this season.
Do we know if Melvin is going to be playing?
I
Melvin
think
Ingram?
so because if Vaughn's playing on Sunday night, I would assume Melvin would be able to play Sunday because we've sat Melvin Ingram the past 2 weeks because he's been wanting to be traded a long time.
I don't know. I think if they can get to Rodgers early, that pass rush, because I mean, it's not like they have bad players on the defense. It's just they haven't been productive.
They live and die by the pass rush. If the pass rush
Mhm.
doesn't get there they give up 7.1 yards a play. But if Frank Clark, Chris Jones, and Melvin Ingram are all screaming at you, then those DBs will play better. But it's just yet to be seen yet.
Yeah. Next up, Arizona -1 at San Francisco +1. It's another. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that spread.
There's a lot of really close projections this week, and I don't love it.
Who's the Cardinals' backup quarterback? Colt McCoy?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Hey, if Colt's starting, give me Arizona. Give it to me.
Yeah. You know what? I'm with them. Give me Arizona.
Yep, give me Arizona. Give it to me.
I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo could beat that defense still.
I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to outperform Colt McCoy.
Oh my God! Don't say that.
Don't quote me on that. Do not quote me on that. This is
You know
all
what? Give me
jokes.
San Fran. Give me San Fran.
I don't blame you for that pick.
But I just think that the Cardinals they'll beat them.
Let's see. Next up, Sunday night, Tennessee +7.5 at the Rams -7.5. Derrick Henry will not be playing because he is out for the season, unfortunately.
A bullet.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah.
No, dodge the bullet. Your middle.
We have no run stop.
If Derrick Henry just could get past the line of scrimmage, he was gonna have 200 yards against the Rams
easily. Because I mean, our safeties are not huge guys, so
Taylor
they could get turned into Josh Norman very quickly.
But with him being out, it has to be the Rams. Gotta have to take that.
Is Adrian Peterson on the active roster?
I think he was signed to the practice squad and got moved up to active roster. It's not updated in fantasy yet. Trust me, I would know. I picked him up. So it hasn't updated yet. He has no point projections, but I think that'll change come Wednesday or Thursday. Don't do it.
Adrian Peterson, man. I watched Adrian Peterson tear up my defense for years. All right.
Yeah, but that was also a 20
ago.
Adrian Peterson.
Hey, it's the name alone. All right. You're telling me if Michael Jordan walked out onto a basketball court, you don't think he'd still drop 20?
Yes, I don't think he would drop 20.
All right, your opinion is invalid here. I'm taking the Rams.
As much as the Chicago fan.
All right, listen. I'm still taking the Rams, but I do hope Adrian Peterson.
At least you're not insane.
I'm not completely insane.
Yet.
Yet these teams are about to drive me insane. I do hope that AP gets some PT though, get some reps, and takes one to the crib. That'd be cool.
I think it'll be a mostly was it Chase McNichols? Is that his
Jeremy.
Jeremy, sorry, Jeremy. But I think it'll be mostly his show against the Rams.
I'm gonna have to go. I'm going with my Rams. I think the spread will be relatively close to that 7.5 mark. But I think the Rams are definitely going to win it, and I think that they'll cover. Finally, we have Chicago +6.5 at Pittsburgh -6.5 on Monday night. A battle of your two favorite teams. I'll go ahead and you know what? I'll go ahead and go first. And, let the fans of the two teams kind of battle it out. I struggled with this one a little bit.
The spread's a bitch.
It is.
Yeah, the spread.
I'm gonna take Chicago +6.5, but Pittsburgh's gonna win it.
That's all I wanted to hear. That's
still gonna lose.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Maybe.
You might cover the 6.5, but you're still gonna have one extra loss in your record. And Pittsburgh wearing your color rush. I don't know. I know that doesn't matter to y'all, but Pittsburgh's undefeated in color rush.
hey, you know what? I'm ready for them to take their first loss in the Color Rush jerseys. Okay, that's beside the point. Mac is currently questionable for the game, by the way, as is Damian Williams. And I don't see David Montgomery on the injury chart, which is a good sign. Unless he's out for the season and I missed something, which I probably did, knowing
I thought Montgomery got put on IR.
I don't see him on here at all.
They have him on the injury report because he's on IR.
Well, it has Dion Bush on here and he's on IR.
He is on IR, but he is scheduled to make his return.
There it is. David Montgomery's back. Mack is questionable, but I think he's day to day right now.
I thought he was out for multiple weeks.
He was out for this past game, but he is questionable day to day right now. He'll probably be closer to a game time decision. If Mac plays, and I think Akeem Hicks is still playing. I know he was out this week, but I think he's back this week. If Mac plays, I'm hammering that Chicago plus 6.5. I'm honest. I'm taking the Chicago plus 6.5 regardless. I feel confident this week. I do think I give a lot of credit to that Pittsburgh defense like all the time, but I think this is a week where Justin Fields can really prove himself, especially if David Montgomery's back and if that defense is mostly healthy. I think it's going to be a big week for the Bears.
Can keep it within a field goal.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going back and forth with this. Give me Pittsburgh. It's not about to be a clean sweep for Chicago.
You were allowing it.
I'm not gonna allow that. But I think Chicago will cover. But also with the way that Pittsburgh's offensive line has been growing throughout this year, with the rookies actually learning what they're doing, the bye week only helped. Running for Najee alone almost ran for 100 yards against the Browns front seven. I think the defense will come out, show why Justin Fields is a rookie, stop the run game, and Big Ben will lead us to another win.
I like it.
I'm
probably about to regret taking Chicago. But
welcome
who is your tackles, Jake? Just who are your tackles? Jason.
Don't even answer that. You're about to make me switch my answer.
Don't listen. Not too
is it
much.
Elijah Wilkinson, the other one?
I think Larry Borum's getting the start.
Yeah,
Am I allowed to change my pick?
Okay.
Am I allowed to change my pick?
Jason Peters did say that Larry Borum got the start last week, by the way. And I believe he's getting the start again this week.
Yes, you're allowed to change your pick, Ronan.
Yeah, I'm changing my pick.
I hate it. You sure you don't want to?
You could rub it in our face if the Monday night hits again.
Oh, I planned on opening. If I hit on it again next week, I plan on opening next week with that.
You can hit on it all you want, but you're not getting a win. That's all that matters.
You don't know that.
I do know that.
No, you don't. You do not.
We'll see come Monday night, Jake.
All right. Best of luck to you, brother.
Oh, it's going to be a shit show.
I can see the Snapchat messages now.
Dude, it's going to be like 10-7. It's going to be something like that.
It is. It really is.
The Bears defense, it will be good enough to make Big Ben look like a 39-year-old quarterback, but my defense is good enough to make Justin Fields look like a rookie.
Yeah.
Fields is going to get sacked like 4 times.
More.
Big Ben's going to be...
If Cleveland got 10 sacks, I win 11.
If Myles Garrett had 5.5 sacks against us, TJ Watt better have at least 6.
Breaking records almost.
Yeah.
For what he's getting paid, he should. I'm just kidding. No, he earned the money.
Hey, he's worth it.
Yes, sir.
I think that'll do it. Do you guys have anything else to add?
No, I think that'll do it.
Colby, I'll see you Monday night.
Oh, God.
Well, be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Iron Grid. Comment down below and give us your thoughts or rants about your team. Thank you guys for listening, and enjoy your football-filled weekend.
See you.
Deuces.
Have a good one.